All right, let's go ahead and get started. The recording is going for those folks who weren't able to join us live. So this introduction is my presentation today is going to be on optimizing your metabolism. And I'm going to be giving you about 5 strategies, and you should be able to take this stuff home immediately and start implementing them to optimize your individual metabolism. And just before I jump in, I'm just going to do a really quick introduction, meaning give you a little background on who I am. I'm a mind, body, nutrition, and dynamic eating psychology coach. I have an emphasis in body image work. I used to work in fitness for training to be balanced. Yay! Just a little side note. And I have a really big passion for helping people and being of service. And I really love this idea of discussing metabolism. We're going to give some strategies that are nutrition oriented, that are very nuts and bolts, like things that you do really need to know from a nutritional standpoint, how to optimize your metabolism. But if you noticed in my title, I call myself a mind-body nutrition coach. We're going to be talking about some other ways that you can metabolize your metabolism that you may have never even thought of. So I hope you all have the handout. Everybody have the handout?
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
Augie? Yes. Augie just said yes. So one of the things that I want to talk about right now is, why the heck did you decide to come to a presentation on metabolism? Like, what drew you in to want to learn more about your metabolism? Does anybody want to chime in from the Elisa audience, maybe?
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so my question mainly, so I'm 57, and my challenge specifically is putting on muscle mass.
Yep.
So postmenopausally, it's been extremely difficult for me. So I'm trying to find a formula to sort of help me do that. I mean, I'm fit, but I would like to build more lean muscle.
Okay, great. So that is going to be a specific question that I'm going to address. And it's a really great question because I'm 50. And as we get to the subject, we're going to talk about protein in particular from a nutritional standpoint. And I'm also going to talk about it about aging as we get older. So we'll jump into the questions in a minute. That's a great one. What I want to do is start off first with talking about what do you think metabolism is? We usually hear terms of like, oh, I feel really low metabolism, right? Or, woohoo, I'm super high metabolism, right? So metabolism, the actual, if you want to hear that official definition, it's the sum total of all the chemical reactions in your body. That's really boring, but there's a better new advanced definition that is the sum total of all the chemical reactions in your body plus all your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Because you're a human being, and putting in food and how you move are certainly going to be important aspects of your metabolism, but you're going to learn in this presentation that there's far more, like your thoughts and kind of your vibe in life really will either enhance or inhibit your metabolism. So you're going to get all kinds of little tricks. Marta, that was Marta, right?
Yes.
That's going to help with, why you're coming here to learn about this presentation. Anybody else want to chime in? If not, it's okay. Just thought I'd throw it out there because I want to make sure I'm interacting with you guys. No? Okay. So what I want you to do right away is I want you to rate your metabolism. So meaning we're going to go from 0 to 10, and I want you to tell me, where do you feel your metabolism is at right now? 0 means you're dead. I'm joking, you're not dead. But okay, Augie said he's a 4. 10 means you're on fire. Anybody else want to chime in?
Oh, we just lost her.
What's that?
Oh, we just lost your picture. It just went. It just says iMac all of a sudden.
Huh.
Oh, there you go.
I was gonna say I can see you. I can't see you, but I can hear you perfectly. So, Elisa, you want to give me a number?
I said 5.
5. Okay, so you're kind of average. You're feeling.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a 5.
Marta, 5.
Yeah.
How about Oscar and Anna?
Anna says 3.
Threes.
Oscar says 3.
3s.
3s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so nobody's super jazzed. It's you're all in Jackson, right? In Wyoming.
Yeah. Yes.
It's 6 o'clock, right? You're probably kind of tired. And that's what I, usually find is that our metabolism can start to really feel lower in the evening when we're starting to feel tired, right? So hold on to that number, because I'm going to ask you about your metabolism number at the end of this presentation, and we're going to see if it changes at all, okay? Because here's a couple things. On the handout, I listed a couple brief little examples. For example, this is one way metabolism can be influenced by nothing to do with nutrition or exercise. It's purely by mindset and kind of your environment. So here you are, you're at home, you're tired, you're kind of grumpy, you're on the couch, and I don't know, you're feeling kind of down. And then all of a sudden, what happens? You get ring, the phone rings, and you get great news. And guess what the great news is? You won the lottery. You won the lottery, okay? Right? You won the lottery. Woohoo! How do you feel now? So your metabolism can change in an instant just purely by some good news, something positive, something joyful, something happy. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. One real quick other one. Yes, Augie says, is the new boyfriend. So it's funny. I had a client, and she's actually 21, and her mom is divorced and is dating, has this new boyfriend. And my client says to me, I just don't get it. My mom is so super happy. She's fired up. She's just enjoying life. She's got this new boyfriend, and it feels like she can just eat whatever, she's just able to eat whatever she'd like to. And I said, that's because her metabolism is really fired up on life. It's amazing how your physiology can shift by life circumstances. So I'm going to talk to you about how that happens here in a minute, but let's go ahead and jump into some nuts and bolts, nutritional strategies that you can use right away. And the first one's about protein. So obviously you don't build muscle by just eating protein, right? You're at Training to Be Balanced for a reason, right? And I think most of you are in the metabolic challenge. Is that right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, right. And so you want to build muscle by lifting heavy things and making sure that your body's not just adapting to that weight. You're constantly challenging your body so that it will build muscle. Nutritionally, what you want to make sure is that you're supporting that process by eating enough protein. So, on the handout, I've given you the equation that you can use to learn what your protein amount is per a meal or snack. So one of the things that I learned in nutrition through, the experts that I consult is that what's happening with most of us is that we're eating a ton of protein at dinner. Okay, who has like, I don't know, is anybody here a vegetarian? Raise your hand. Anyone?
Nope.
Okay, so everybody's kind of meat, chicken, fish, that sort of thing. So most people, for example, will eat almost 2/3 of their protein at night. And this is because you might have a big piece of chicken breast or a big piece of beef. And really, for most of us, that's way more than your body could even absorb and assimilate in one meal. So when you take that equation, and I gave the example of the 150-pound person, and I believe what it was, let's see, we got here, I've got my notes here, it ends up being about 17 grams of protein for breakfast, 17 grams of protein for lunch, 17 grams of protein for dinner. And if you have a snack, you can do that too. And this is the thing, most people are having like 42 grams of protein at dinner, and maybe they might have an egg or two at breakfast. So breakfast, 1 egg equals around 7 grams of protein. So for this 150-pound person, they'd need around 2-ish, okay? And I find that most of my clients may kind of get that kind of set, like this example of the 150-pound person might get what they need at lunchtime, but usually most people are way overdoing it at night. So just think, if it's 6 ounces of chicken, you're going to multiply 6 ounces times 7 grams. That's 42. And guess what? 42 is way more than you need than the 17 grams at dinner. You follow me on that? Anyone? You're seeing, like, start to see where you fall into, calculate your protein number. You could probably do it right now if you have a cell phone in front of you and find out what your number is and see, are you under eating it at breakfast and maybe overeating it at dinner? And one of the tips that I gave you on the handout was that, most of us could probably cut that protein in half at dinner and then save it for your lunch or breakfast. And I gave you a couple little, tips on like 1 egg equals about 6 grams of protein. 1 ounce of a meat protein gives you about 7 grams of protein. So you can use Google, good old Google, right? To, type in other kinds of protein to start to like look tomorrow and just write down what you're eating for protein and get it on Google and see where you're at once you've calculated your number.
So you're saying that if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be eating 17 grams at every meal or the whole day?
Yes, per a meal.
Okay.
Per a meal.
And you're saying also that it's better to go light on protein in the evening meal closer to bedtime and share up the rest of your 17 grams at that evening meal for breakfast, lunch, and snack.
Well, you just want to be getting around 17 grams per all the meals. It's just that most people tend to eat way too, eat a really big protein piece of protein at night. And what I'm saying is, all your body does is excrete the protein. It's not being used. Mm-hmm. And it could be just also extra calories, I don't like to talk about calories because I'm not a calorie person, but you're not even your body can't absorb that protein. And you'll also see that your body doesn't store protein. That's why you want to keep eating, 17, whatever your number is, in periods throughout the day, because you don't store protein. So you can't just eat, 100 grams of protein in the morning and think you're good, because your body will just excrete what you can't absorb. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So this is a really valuable number for all of us to kind of be aware of. I never want you to get like super crazy in your head over numbers, but it's good for you to have a general idea of where you're at. Okay. And one of the things I wanted to mention to speak to Marta's question is that that number is just also a baseline. There's a couple groups of people that will need more protein per day. And those are those of us who are getting older. So, you know, I don't have the equation off the top of my head, but I'll certainly send it to the group just in case you're in the older population. You know, your protein needs go up as you're aging, when you have an illness, and when you're also recovering from an injury. So this is a very baseline number of protein grams per a meal. And if you have other questions, you can always shoot them to me, you know, after the fact, because I'm going to be sending this recording out to all of you who are on live, and then hi, all of you who are listening to this at a later date. All right, so that's a little bit of protein, okay? All right, there's one thing I want to do, and this is really silly of me, but I've got to do it, because this is a presentation on metabolism, right? It's 6 o'clock at night. You're probably tired. You're at 3, 4, and 5, right? Yep. So there's nothing like a little happy music to get you out of a crummy, crappy mood, right? So wherever you are, whether you're at Training to Be Balanced, or Augie, you're in Oregon, or wherever you're joining me from, I want you to get out of your chair right now. Get up, okay? And you're just gonna bounce a little bit with me. Okay. Just 30 seconds. You can high five if you're not comfortable dancing. You can do a little hand cupping on your body.
TikTok.
Okay.
TikTok is made for our nation's children.
Stand up a little bit. You could get a drink of water, okay? You can do some high fives, okay? Okay, 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Thank you for participating. And actually, I don't know if you did because I can't see you. But it would have been really fun if I could see you. But my point is, it's so easy to just think that it's just, you know, food or getting to the gym that's going to fire up your metabolism. Anybody can fire up their metabolism, and you can do it in an instant. Okay, let's move on to the next point, okay? Because I want to make sure I get through all this info with you. All right, so this is a big one. It's called stress impacts your metabolism. Yes, it really has a huge influence on your metabolism. So I'm sure many of you have heard about the stress response and the relaxation response. So your nervous system has 2 different ways that it can go. It could turn on the stress response. You know, the deer jumps out in front of your, you know, car, you slam on the brakes, you miss it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought somebody had a question. And anyway, your stress response turns on so that you can slam on the brakes, and, you know, all the blood flow shunts from your stomach and shoots into your arms and legs so you can press the, you know, the brake down, you can swerve the steering wheel, whatever you need to do. That is a basic human survival response, right? So the other response is called the relaxation response. And it's the one that we really want to be tapping into if we want to optimize our metabolism. Why? Because a lot of us are dealing with low level or high chronic day after day stress. And if you are in that chronic state where your sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response, is turning on, guess what? That makes your calorie burning go down. Your body doesn't want to burn any fat. It does not want to build muscle because it's protecting you. But how many of us are in this day after day chronic stress cycle? And I mean, it could be just from life stresses, but I'm also going to touch on in this presentation how you might be turning on that stress response that minimizes your digestion purely by how you're eating. Okay? Because, what's that? I thought I heard you say something. Okay, so let's actually talk about that, like how you eat matters. So how many of you are a slow eater? Anybody raise their hand? Anyone? Or you can shout it out.
No.
No slow
No?
eaters here.
How about moderate?
Sadly.
Moderate, anyone? Nope, Diane says nope. Hi, Diane.
Moderate. Maybe moderate.
Okay, Mod, anybody a fast eater?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so most of us fall into that moderate fast zone. All right, here's another question. Does anybody eat most of their meals, almost all of their meals, very present? Or are you distracted? Checking emails, driving in the car, you know, the list. Distracted? Raise your hand. Yes? Anyone?
No, you guys don't eat distracted? Oh, no distracted eaters here in the crowd.
Augie says he's
I eat
60%.
all the time.
Augie says he's 60% present. Diane says she's sometimes. Okay, that's great. I'm psyched. Because the message here doesn't mean that you never multitask when you're eating, but you do need to bring some presence to your meal because your brain needs to connect with your digestive system, okay? And the thing is that your body, when you eat fast or distracted, that's stressed eating to the body. The body doesn't differentiate whether or not it's stress from, you know, how you're, you know, eating fast or moderate or distracted. Doesn't separate that from like the deer jumping out in front of the car. It's still going to turn on the stress response because you're eating too quickly and distracted. Because your digestion was never meant to be, it wasn't designed to, you know, be moving at speed. The optimal state for your digestion is the relaxation response. And when your body is flooded with that parasympathetic nervous response, relaxation, guess what? That's your optimal calorie burning, optimal fat burning, optimal muscle, being able to build muscle. And it's also the most optimal state for you to absorb and assimilate your nutrients. Did you hear that? So you might be eating kale or a cupcake, okay? But this is the thing, if you're eating the kale, because you know, you think that's a healthier food, and you're eating it super fast and distracted, and you're eating it because you think you have to, guess what? Your body is gonna feel that stress, you know, that stress in your body from like your thoughts, and is going to shunt your digestion. So we talk a lot about what to eat, but how you eat really matters. So I want you to self-evaluate, and could you do a little bit better? So notice how you eat matters to your digestion, which obviously influences your metabolism, right? So how you eat matters. And then of course, the stresses from life. You know, how can you manage them better? You know, can you seek help if you need it? You know, whether or not you go and get some therapy, which is an awesome thing. I'm always very, mental health is such a huge piece that I honor in my work as a mind-body nutrition coach. So, you know, get help, whether it's a therapist or a friend or whatever you need to help you manage the stressors of life and be able to bring those down. Because I want to tell you two stories before I move on to the next point. And it's how somebody's metabolism, they were in the gym and they're rocking it and, you know, they're pushing them. I mean, everything is great. Their food's really wonderful. Their workouts are great. And they're like, you know, I still just don't feel very energetic. kind of tired and moody and I just don't really feel good. I don't get it because I've got great nutrition and exercise. So we spend a little time digging deeper and finding out who they're bringing to the plate, like who you are, like what are your stresses that you're dealing with in your everyday life? You know, is it a relationship thing? Is it an illness? Is it work? Kids. Who said that? Elisa?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's true, right? You know, sometimes you're be like, okay, can I get my neighbor to pick up the girls today? Like I need, like you notice that like stress is just oozing from you. Well, here's two stories to real stories from clients. One was a client who did, you know, quote, doing all the right things. And then I found out that she was waiting for a marriage proposal that was not happening. And so she was ready to break off this relationship. So I talked to her about it. She went and asked her boyfriend, you know, approach this subject. And eventually he did ask her to marry him. And guess what? She didn't, you know, it had nothing to do with her food or exercise, but her body started to let go of what it didn't need to. It started to burn fat. It started to build muscle. Purely from that reason. Do you hear how powerful that is? Don't underestimate the stress response. It's huge. I had another client who was in kind of a crummy relationship, and she broke it off because she realized it wasn't serving her. No change in exercise or her food, and she started to see metabolic shifts. So don't underestimate this power. So either through how you're eating or who you're bringing to the plate. This has a huge effect on your body's ability to build muscle and burn fat and calorie burn and absorb and assimilate nutrients. Cool? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I wrote there to practice, you know, slow down if you're fast, eat with less distraction if you can. And if you find you're really stressed out when you're about to eat,
5 deep breaths.
just take 5 deep breaths. You can calm your nervous system even if your, you know, life is going haywire. Do that to help your body digest better, okay? All right, so now we're going to take a 30-second metabolism break. Here we go, folks. I want everybody to stand. I'm going to play my goofy music here again because it is very powerful when you're tired at 6 o'clock or whatever time it is now. What time is it? 6:30. Okay. Are you laughing at me? Yeah, I think you are.
We're laughing at us.
Okay. So I had to. If you need some water, get some water. Do a couple high fives. Okay. All right. 5 more seconds. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't feel too tired. It is now earlier here. Okay. Thank you again for putting up with that. All right, let's move on to the next point. But you can see how, like, you can get so tired. You know, sitting in a chair is very tiring, right? So if you can get out of your chair, move around, you know, interact with somebody, play some fun music. I have a playlist that has all this happy music so that I can just fire up my metabolism. Makes me feel good, okay? All right, let's talk about campfire meals. How many people are familiar with this concept of building balanced meals to stabilize your blood sugar? And the reason you do that is when you have a balanced, when your blood sugar is balanced, your mood is stabilized, your energy is stabilized, and your metabolism is going to run optimally. Okay, anybody familiar?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Anybody has knows nothing about it? Anybody know?
No.
From Elisa's group? Oscar, Anna?
Oscar and Anna, have you guys heard of the Campfire Meal?
No, they
Well,
haven't.
you should have, because I put it in the info blast a couple weeks ago.
Somebody's not reading the info blast. No, I'm just kidding. But that's okay. That's why you're here, to learn. And that's why, I put it in this presentation, because it is an important factor of being able to rev up your metabolism. So one of the things that, I wrote on here is what your blood sugar is impacted by what you eat. So here's an example. If you have for breakfast orange juice and cereal, okay, that is going to make your blood sugar go really, really high, because it's mainly carbohydrates, all right? And what we're looking for in a campfire meal is asking these 3 questions. Where's the protein? Where's the healthy fat? And where are the carbs? Those 3 things, when eaten together, are very stabilizing to your blood sugar. So instead of going up, eating a bunch, just maybe mostly carbs that make your blood sugar go up. And when anything that goes up that high crashes. And then you just kind of keep going like this if you keep eating mainly unbalanced meals throughout the day. These big jumps and peaks and valleys, super stressful to the body. And remember what happens when the stress response is turned on. Fat burning stops, muscle building stops, calorie burning, it shunts it, it lowers it. And same thing, calorie burning, because it wants, it's trying to protect your body. It's holding on to your resources because it believes, it feels the stress. And eating unbalanced meals that maybe only have, like again, orange juice and cereal is mostly carbs. There might be a tiny bit of protein in there. There might be a tiny bit of fat in there. Versus, for an example, here would be a breakfast with protein, fat, and carb. Eggs, protein, okay. Vegetables, maybe have a side of fruit. Those are both carbs, and then, there's going to be you could put some avocado on there for some healthy fat. That is a very stabilizing meal that will keep your blood sugar like this, which is going to keep you out of the stress response. So that's another way by building, and I have a whole handout on this. So I have a handout on almost all of these things. So if you shoot me an email and say, hey, Tanya, I want to know more about this, let me know. And I'm happy to send you a handout directly to your email, where I go into, give you a ton of examples besides the eggs, the avocado, and, vegetables or fruit as a campfire breakfast. Just let me know and I'll send you that email and I give you a ton of ideas on what to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. Because a campfire meal, the idea is that protein is the structure of your meal. It's there for repairing and rebuilding your tissue, your muscle tissue, right? You're trying to build muscle. So that's why I told you, look to see how much protein you're eating. Fat, healthy fat, things like olive oil, avocado, those are great healthy fats. They are like the log on the campfire. What does a log do? Anyone? How's it burn? What's that?
The log is what keeps the fire going.
Right. It burns really slowly and for a long time, versus carbohydrates, which are considered kindling on the fire. How does kindling burn? Anyone? Quickly, and it gives you really quick energy, right? It starts the fire, but it burns out quickly. And that's
even
exactly,
complex carbs.
So great question. Is that Elisa?
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. It still burns quickly. All carbs do, but a complex carb will burn a little bit slower than a simple carb.
Okay. And a
So
complex carb would be an example of like a sweet potato or?
yeah, so sweet potato, it could be quinoa versus like ice cream,
Mhm. Oh,
like a
okay.
pure sugar.
So
You know,
most grains are all considered complex carbs?
some grains are refined,
Mhm.
like for example, like some grains in some of the breads. You want to look for whole grains.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah, it's a great question. Still burns quickly, but yes, the better quality ones will burn a little slower. And there's nothing wrong with carbs. You still want protein, fat, and carbs, and preferably more of these, complex carbs most of the time. But there's nothing wrong with having dessert. I love dessert. Okay. I don't want to make carbs or simple carbs evil because they're enjoyable foods and life's too dang short. But let's talk about, making sure most of the time you've got some protein, fat, and carb in your meals, because that is what's going to help your body stay out of the blood sugar roller coaster, the big leaps and dips, and stabilize it, which is the best for your metabolism, which is, the relaxation response when you're not going like this and it's more level is your optimal state for calorie burning. I'll say it again, fat burning, muscle building. Okay. So that's why, I mentioned Campfire Meals again, because it is going to help you optimize your metabolism. Okay. All right. Let's talk about cravings here in a second, because it is time to stand up. I'm serious.
Wow.
30 seconds. Come on, 30 seconds.
Today.
I can't stand sitting through presentations, like boring. Come on, get up. Augie, are you dancing? Diane, are you dancing? Dancing? Diane? I know, humor me. Up. I think Diane's asleep. I'm just kidding.
Go pick up her child. Her daughter Clara's watching.
Oh, really? Claire? Hi, Claire. All right. This is a big subject, but I'm going to briefly discuss it, all right? Because people always want to know about cravings. Like, gosh, my cravings are just sabotaging my eating. And, I mentioned, like, how is that sabotaging your metabolism, because it feels stressful, to have those cravings. And I have a wonderful handout. It's 5 pages. Again, I'll send it to you if you want it, where I really geek out on the individual things I'm going to mention here that I did put on your handout. Like, I do want you to check in with, are you properly hydrated? Okay. And, generally they say about half your body ounces, take your body weight, divide it in half. So, 150 divided by 2 equals 75, and around 75 ounces. It's just a beginning number. So check in. Are you properly hydrated? Because sometimes we crave when really, we're thirsty. So make sure you're getting that. Let's see, what do we got here? Honor your emotions. I mean, that's a really big subject. There's nothing wrong with eating for emotional reasons. I'm an eating psychology coach, so I always say, hey, when you were born, most of us were born, held, loved, and fed. So it's natural for us to equate food with love and comfort. So there's nothing wrong with eating for emotional reasons. What I usually ask is, if it's the only way that you're dealing with your emotions, it's your only coping mechanism is to eat, then let's find out, can we not, I might have to refer out, or you find somebody to help you, move through those feelings. And B, is there a better way to honor those emotions besides eating? Okay, big subject, but I mention it, okay? Number 3, are you building campfire meals? Because if you're not, guess what? That increases cravings. Because I showed you that when you look on your handout, it says high blood sugar, fat storage, mood swings, brain fog increase, low blood sugar when it drops down really low. That increases your stress hormone, cortisol. You get really tired. Your brain gets all foggy. Did you notice your brain fog is foggy and when it's really high and really low blood sugar? And low blood sugar increases cravings. Okay, so I mentioned building campfire meals. Sleep. I know you just had a presentation on sleep. When you're tired and you wake up in the morning, guess what? It's really common for your body to crave. And guess what does it crave? It wants carbohydrates because it wants kindling, quick energy. And that's why we usually crave those sort of foods like coffee or, sugary foods in the morning when we're wiped out. But the best thing to do is build a campfire meal, because that's going to stabilize your blood sugar and make you feel your best and put your body in that mode to burn calories, fat, and build muscle. Manage stress, which I said can come through even just like not feeling good about your body. As a body image expert, I do want to mention here, I have to, health comes in all different sizes and shapes, okay? We're so used to healthy always having to look thin, and unhealthy isn't thin, but that's just not true. I have so many clients that are in thin bodies that are very unhealthy, and I have people who are in bigger bodies that are far healthier than some of my thinner clients. So we want to be taking care, like practicing self-care behaviors, and then allowing our body weight to fall where it feels most comfortable under that relaxation response. But here's the big point that I really wanted to talk about underneath cravings is, are you restricting your food either in the form of number of calories or macronutrients? How many? Anyone? Anybody?
No.
Nobody. Okay. So maybe you're not, but if you are, I want to tell you that nothing amplifies a craving like restriction. So there's a wonderful book out there. It's called Anti-Diet, and it's by an author named Christy Harrison. And if you don't catch these names, I can always send them to you. But it's a research-based book, and she's done a ton of research on cravings and restriction, and how restriction drives cravings. I could probably give a list of all these research studies. Well, one of the things, I'll just tell you a short story from that book, is that she talks about the dieter's mind versus the non-dieters. And a dieter is somebody who restricts calories or some sort of macronutrients. Macronutrients are protein, fat, carb. Like some people are like really restricting their carbs. Okay. So the story is, do you know of anybody, for example, there's my husband, or he's here somewhere. So there's the plate of cookies. He can go over the plate of cookies and eat a cookie or two, pops them in, and just goes on with his life. Versus a dieter's mind, or somebody who's restricting calories or maybe sugar or something like that. And they look at the plate of the cookies and they're like, I shouldn't have any. Or maybe I'll just have one, right? So then you go and you have one, and then you're just like, but there's all this plate here. Maybe I'll just have another. And then you may eat the whole plate. I don't know. But research shows that the mind of, for example, like my husband, who can just see the plate of cookies and have one or two and doesn't think anything of it, like his brain just doesn't light up over the sugar like somebody who's restricted sugar. It's very fascinating to research studies on that. So one of the things that I do in my practice is I take a non-diet approach to healthful eating, where I do investigate cravings, where they're coming from, and are you restricting? Because restriction is such a common thing today in eating plans. So just notice if perhaps that could be driving your cravings. And the solution is to practice, in my little to-do on your handout, is to investigate learning or relearning how to eat intuitively, which in a nutshell is listening to your body's cues of hunger, fullness, things like that, versus food rules. So it's a big subject. You can go on my website and, TanyaMark.com. It's written at the bottom of the handout, my website, and just go to the blog. And there's tons of articles on that if you want to know more info. Or you can always shoot me a specific email question. I'm happy to answer it. To discuss that book, Augie's asking me a question. Let me see. What is he saying? Does that book discuss intuitive eating? Yes. It's called Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. And it's not all about intuitive eating, but it has a huge portion of it discussing intuitive eating. Thanks for the question, Augie. You bet. You bet. Okay. Cravings in a nutshell. Okay. Here's the last point that I want to talk about. Okay. Yep. 30 seconds. Humor me. Here we go. This is it. Literally. Anybody else like the song?
We're probably here to do that too.
Okay, are you out of your seat? High five, move, drink some water, do something, okay? Uh-oh, I'm having, hilarious, my iPad did not want to turn the song off. I think I was telling us something, do you think? So here is my last point, and it is a awesome one that you can use every day, and it is using mind-body activation strategic resets to your metabolism, self-generate energy throughout the day. Okay, I was just at a conference last week that they were from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., 3 days in a row. And I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to fall asleep or be grumpy or tired or whatever by the end of the day. But we practiced these silly little things that I interjected throughout this presentation today. And I was shocked how good I felt. So whether it's, like I said, this is see this right here? This is a cupped hand, and you can use it to just kind of get your blood flowing. You can do it on your arms, your shoulders. You can do it lightly on your back. You can't see it, but I'm doing it on my butt and on my legs and thighs. You can do that hand cupping as you breathe. A few times, you can bounce in place, you can do some air squats while breathing. What else do I have here? High fives, visualizing happy places. And I wrote here, everybody needs a hug. It changes your metabolism by Leo Basquiaglia. But it's true. We only think of, I have such a sluggish metabolism, or, there's so many complaints about having a slow metabolism. But I just gave you 4 ways to kind of take a look at yourself and see how you're doing in those areas. And then this 5th one of self-generating energy throughout your day. And in your to-do on this handout, I said, never sit longer than 50 minutes. Get out of your chair and do one of these resets, whatever. You know what? Yeah, I look silly and kind of goofy while I was doing this, but you know what? Like, I'm not actually tired, which is crazy. Like, I feel like I'm full of energy. I feel like my metabolism is actually high right now, even though I've been speaking for a full hour. So you could say, I don't know if you have jobs that sit a lot, get out of your chair, do something, move, listen to some music, do any of these strategic resets. They're called mind body. So you're moving, you're breathing, so that's activating your mind. That mind body activation is very powerful to help your metabolism run high because you feel good versus how do you describe slow metabolism? You can think of somebody who is tired, laying on the couch, exhausted, yawning, which is what we all kind of do later in the evening. It's normal. You might even be yawning right now, and that's okay. I can't see you, so it doesn't really matter. But I want you to see how valuable this is, and that's why I really, after every point, I had you get out of your chairs or high five or dance or bounce or do something, because you have a tremendous amount of control over your metabolism, beyond just the tips that I gave you with protein in Campfire Meals and managing your stress and how you eat, and then looking at where your cravings come from. And then this fifth tip. So you have 5 tips that you can look at right now to enhance your individual metabolism. So here I ask you at the end of this presentation, and let's see, how much time do we have here? 5 minutes. Can you rate your metabolism again? 0, you're dead. Hopefully nobody died during this presentation. And 10, like, you're flying high. Is there any improvement? I'm curious. Maybe? Anybody want to chime in?
I would say I feel from a 5 to like a 7 or 8.
Holy mackerel, I wasn't expecting that. Maybe, I was thinking maybe, even if you jumped up 1 point, because I've been doing most of the moving, but I wanted you to see that you didn't have to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to like run out of here. I'm so exhausted. I wanted you to see that I could help boost your metabolism through not just what I taught you, kind of the nuts and bolts stuff, but purely from this one. Yes, up to about a 6 from a 4, Augie says. That's great. So, but just think, if you did this consistently day after day, how those numbers might elevate you just from enacting kind of this, this fun, get out of your chair kind of stuff every, half an hour, 50 minutes. And you start doing that day after day, your metabolism is going to be up here purely from that. Even if you didn't do any of the other 4 things. Because we can live in the tired story, or I'm exhausted. You know what? I hear you. We all have a huge to-do list. But if you can bring some fun in your life, play some fun music, get out of your chair, things like that, it goes a long way to boost your metabolism. So did anybody have any questions in these last couple of minutes that you would like me to answer?
So can you make a couple suggestions for breakfast for protein? I'm allergic to eggs, so I can't eat eggs. So a couple suggestions for breakfast for protein?
Yeah. And that's a pretty common one. Is that Marta?
Yes.
Hi, Marta. I'm recognizing your voice. Egg allergies are fairly common. And so here's a couple suggestions. If you want to do something I'll give you a vegetarian one. Like, if some people really like oatmeal, okay? But the way to make sure you're getting enough protein in that oatmeal, because it could be like a steel cut oatmeal will have more protein in it than a regular oatmeal. You could even put in some fresh berries if you want. But this is how you get them enough protein after you figure out how many grams you need. So maybe it's 17 or whatever. That was the example I used. I will add things like flaxseed, hemp seed, chia seed, raw nuts and other raw nuts and seeds. And you can measure that out until you see just once, you know, to kind of see what you need to get the amount of protein you need in something like an oatmeal. Okay. So there's one suggestion. There are things that are like, you know, sweet potato hashes that you add sausage to, or turkey or chicken. So it might be a little bit untraditional for you, Marta, to eat like salmon or, well, I don't know. I mean, some, you know, homemade sausage patties, they can be made out of whatever you want, bison or turkey or pork or whatever, you know, you enjoy, but then you know, cook it in with some vegetables and sweet potatoes, things like that. I'm trying to think of, anybody else having a suggestion?
Well,
I'm trying to,
that amaranth dish that you have taught to make is pretty tasty.
Yep, I just realized how dark it just got in here. Hi, you can see me. But yeah, you know, and here's the thing on the Campfire Meals, I think I have given some great suggestions too on that handout. So if you want that, the reverse side of it has a ton of suggestions for some proteins for breakfast that don't have to be egg breakfast. And I can shoot you some more ideas. Just remind me, Marta, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Anybody else?
How about snacks? How many calories should a snack have, and how often should we have snacks?
Okay, so I take the approach of not counting calories, or some days you may need snacks and other days you don't, because I take a very different approach, meaning intuitive eating approach. So for example, is that Marta again? I think so. Some days you may say you worked out today at the gym and you crushed it and you're maybe really hungry. And then tomorrow, Marta, you sit on your butt, which I hope you don't do now because you're going to get up every 50 minutes and move. But you might be sitting all day and you might not be as hungry. So your needs for whether or not, I don't have rules on you should snack or you shouldn't snack. I want you to pay attention to your hunger cues and your fullness cues. And I'll teach you how to do that as an intuitive eater. We used to know how to do that as infants, but we've unlearned it over the course of our lifetime. And I will help people relearn it so that you'll be like, you're going to answer whether or not you need the snack. You're like, I'm dang hungry. I need more than 3 meals today. Or, you know, I didn't do much. I don't really need that snack.
I think the other piece to that though, like sometimes for me is if you're bored
Yep.
and it's so easy to ignore your cues because you're like, well, I'm not really hungry, but I think I want to eat something right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I just noticed that today, in fact. And I ate something.
And so, and Elisa, that's a really great question, you know, and honestly, I would ask you about your boredom, not about the food. Right. The food's not the problem, the boredom is. And I look at root cause solutions, and a lot of times we use food to solve it. And I get that because it's a normal thing that a lot of us go to. So I don't make it wrong. I like to try and unearth like other ways to look at that. And if you do it once in a while, who cares? But if you're doing it and you're always doing it from boredom eating, then we need to talk about it. Sometimes it's really not a problem if it's an occasional here and there. But if it is, then we look at it a little bit deeper. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That was actually a really big question, Marta. And I love that you ask it, because if we start to kind of turn this upside down and really start to pay attention, it takes some time, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've been eating a certain way for years and years and years with lots of rules and eat this and not that. And now I'm like, oh, like some days I'm really hungry and other days I'm just not. So my meal sizes might be different and my snack sizes might be different. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. I love it. Anybody else?
I had one person ask today that is gonna have the recording a little later about intermittent fasting. He was curious about your thoughts on that.
Yes, great, thank you. I did actually write that down, but I will answer that right now.
That.
So intermittent fasting could be an experiment for you. You can go and check it out to see how you feel and how it works for you. From my perspective, I would rather give you strategies to take care of your health and eating that are sustainable for your whole life. I don't know too many people who are going to do intermittent fasting forever. So that's kind of my take on it. And I can't remember who asked that question, but if you have, we can go into more details about it if you want to shoot me an additional email.
Okay.
How's that? Anybody else?
Yep. No, I don't have any other questions.
Augie says my above. Uh-oh. I think he asked one. Let me check what Augie has here. Okay. I'm going to read Augie's question, and this, I think this will be the last one. I'll let everybody go. I know everyone is different, and it does depend on routine, but routine makes a difference. Do you see metabolism change immediately or usually a week's worth if practiced? Augie, I'm trying to understand the question. Can you rephrase it?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Tanya?
Yeah. Oh, good. I can hear you. Yeah.
It was.
Just
I know it's. I do know it's different, but I'm just wondering: do you see a time frame on metabolism changes if it's worked on a regular basis?
So you're asking me, does it take time?
Yes.
You know, yes, I would say it does take some time and some practice. You know, I did show you in this presentation for sure how quickly you can change it in an instant, but for you to be able to really see a shift in your overall metabolism, sure, you want to give it some time, you know, where you practice some of these strategies that I gave you today and start to see, okay, let me check in. Am I starting to see some shift after practicing these 5 things? Or maybe I do 2 of these. Maybe I should check out, you know, the 3rd one, you know, and practice and see if you start to see a shift. But yeah, I would say, sure, you may feel better immediately, but as far as seeing a metabolic shift in your body, it does take time. Does that answer it?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, anybody else? I think we're good. I think we're about.
I guess I have one more comment about
Yes.
metabolizer, just flowing off of the last sleep workshop about sleep.
Yes.
And its effect on your metabolism. Would that be pretty accurate to say when you get 8 hours of sleep or more, or what you feel you need to feel rested?
Yeah, I mean, sleep falls under that stress category. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're putting a lot of stress on your body. And as I taught today, if your body's feeling that stress from a lack of sleep, whether it's one day, say maybe you just have a crummy night's sleep and then you wake up and you're feeling stressed, and guess what? You might crave. Or maybe it's this day after day of really crummy sleep. That's incredibly stressful on your body. And that can lock you right in fat storage just because you're getting really poor sleep. So you can see there's a lot of factors that, you know, move into your metabolism, and absolutely sleep is a very important one. So you might identify that as a key area. And I know Martha spoke to you, a lot of you guys, about that. So if it's something you need help with, reach out, because better sleep can really shift your metabolism.
All right. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that does it for me.
Okay. Thank you for attending my very first live stream. We've made history today I'm in California. I am in north of San Diego in a town called Encinitas. And I thank you for being here with me and participating in my silliness. Enjoy the handout. I will send a copy of the recording. And if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. I'm here to be of service to you because I want you to feel and be your best. So have a great night, everybody. See ya.
Thank you, Tanya.
You bet. Bye-bye.